This is a full story. Puppy wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. Rocky, if you really can't take it, you can come over. 5 minutes later, I appeared in his bedroom. Recently, a handsome guy moved in next door. According to the landlord, he's around my age and just graduated from college. Since we got along well, we exchanged contact information. One weekend evening, I discovered a great movie. It was a proper film, but the romantic tension between the leads was intense. I snuggled under the covers, trying to suppress my giggles. Unexpectedly, I received a message from my handsome neighbor. "Stop watching those, it's bad for your health." I was shocked and played dumb. Rocky, if you really can't take it, you can come over. I kept pretending. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Rocky, your phone is connected to my Bluetooth. Oh, dear God, I couldn't keep pretending. I decided to stay silent. Then, Rocky sent a picture. His pale skin, 8-pack abs, and tiny droplets of water hanging on them. 5 minutes later, I appeared in his bedroom. Rocky wasn't surprised. He smirked. "I thought you'd hesitate a little longer." I sat on his bed, hands spread on the soft blanket, acting indifferent. If it's handed to me, why not take it? As soon as I finished speaking, Rocky's strong hand grasped my neck, and a fierce kiss landed on me. Our breaths intertwined. He didn't let go until I was struggling for air. I stared at him, unwilling to back down. "Your kissing skills are good, but I wonder if..." Before I could finish, Rocky grabbed my ankle, his fingers trailing upward, igniting sparks. Finally, his warm breath brushed against my ear. With a hint of mischief, "How was my technique? Feel good?" I was so exhausted that I couldn't even lift my eyelids, and I didn't answer him. The next morning, I woke up to find Rocky playing with my hair. Our eyes met, and there was a bit of awkwardness. I got up, ready to get dressed, but Rocky pulled me back. With his eyes closed, looking content, he said, "Haley, what are we now?" "Me, neighbors." Rocky's eyes flew open, and he sat up quickly, his face full of grievance. "Then what was last night?" "Me, bad luck for you." Rocky got a little upset. "Haley, me, fine, bad luck for me, happy now?" I threw out the kind of cold line that leaves no room for response, but I still patted Rocky's head, soothingly saying, "Come on, we're adults, don't take it too seriously." After that, I slipped back to my own place. Actually, from the day Rocky moved in, I had announced my intention to pursue him, but my best friend had hit me with a heavy blow. "Rocky? He's our college classmate, you know, the famous player." No wonder, a guy that good looking. He's either taken or a total player. So I stopped myself. I couldn't dare like him anymore. And as for last night, let's just say it was a momentary lapse. After work, I was lounging on the couch, eating snacks. Rocky sent me a message on Facebook. "I found some good movies. Want to come over and watch together?" I responded coldly. "Movies? I only watch Peppa Pig." "Rocky, but I made a 4-course meal for my baby." I immediately changed my tune. "Okay, I'll be right over." For the next half hour, I devoured everything. Afterward, I sighed. "Didn't expect your cooking to be this good." Rocky put his hand on my waist, squeezing lightly, and said, "My stir-fry skills are even better. Want to try sometime?" I grabbed his hand, lifting it off, and said honestly, "I'm on my period." Rocky sighed deeply and flashed a fake smile. "Fine. So, should we watch A Tiger Roaring or Year of the Rabbit? This guy, he's someone I can hang with." In the end, we curled up on the couch and watched both movies. It was almost midnight. Rocky, still clinging to me, rested his head in the crook of my neck, full of reluctance. "Baby, can't we really be together?" I pushed him away, still cold. "No, we can't." When I reached the door, I looked back and explained, "Rocky, I don't date players, but I'm okay with just having fun." Back in my room, I felt a strange sense of loss, like I'd just been dumped. Coincidentally, I received a message from my best friend. "Hey, I think we might have made a mistake. There were 2 guys named Rocky at our school. The one you know probably isn't the player. He might even be a total innocent." Great, I'm doomed. All night, I tossed and turned, wondering how to apologize and explain. I couldn't figure it out before my alarm rang. With dark circles under my eyes, I got up, got ready, and headed out. The moment I opened the door, I ran into Rocky. He stood there at my door, looking like he had something important to say. I gave him an awkward smile. "Morning." Rocky pressed his lips together, looking a little nervous. Word by word, he said, "Baby, I've thought it through. I'm okay with just having fun. You can play however you want. Just don't see anyone else, okay? But I'm really not a player. Please don't accuse me of that." Then he stepped closer, taking my hand. It was the first time someone had confessed to me, and I panicked. I instinctively tried to escape. "Sorry, I'm going to be late for work." Leaving just that, I hurried away. But behind me, I could feel his intense gaze burning into me. I had barely settled into my workstation when I was still immersed in Rocky's passionate confession. Suddenly, I received a call from my landlord. "Haley, I'm really sorry, but I can't continue your lease on the apartment you're currently in. I know you young people have busy jobs, and moving is tiring. The apartment across the hall is also mine, and there's another bedroom available for rent. The rent is lower, and it'll be easier for you to move." I asked the current tenant, and he has no objections. "What do you think?" After hanging up, I let out a long sigh. Is fate pushing me to cohabit with Rocky? After work, I dragged my tired body home, ready to unlock the door. Coincidentally, I caught a whiff of delicious food wafting from Rocky's place. How does this guy have so much energy all day? Doesn't he have a job? Before I could think too much, Rocky suddenly opened the door, leaning lazily against the frame. He raised an eyebrow. "Heard you're moving over?" With that casual, carefree attitude again, I felt anger bubbling up and snapped. "I haven't agreed to anything, okay?" After saying that, I slammed the door, cutting him off outside. Sometimes, I don't understand myself. I'm usually reasonable, yet I act unreasonably around Rocky. It's such a trivial matter, but I get inexplicably irritated. I flopped onto the couch, recalling the dramatic day. Ding ding, ding ding. My Facebook kept ringing. Rocky had sent several pictures, all of the dishes he made tonight. Coca-Cola chicken wings, sweet and sour ribs, crab sticks, scrambled eggs, and a big bowl of vegetable soup. All my favorites. I pretended not to understand and sent back a question mark. "Rocky, sorry, did I upset you earlier? I just wanted to talk to you, not intentionally. I've made a lot of dishes tonight. Want to come over and eat? Let's consider it my apology, okay?" Just waiting for you to say that. After another 5 minutes, I replied, "Okay, I'll be over shortly." This way, I seemed more aloof. While eating, Rocky kept hinting at wanting me to move in with him. I feigned ignorance, focusing on my food. When I was almost full, Rocky served me a bowl of vegetable soup. His fingers were pale and well-defined. I was momentarily mesmerized, until Rocky broke the silence. "Haley, you actually understand everything, right? Why do you keep avoiding me? What are you dissatisfied with? Just tell me, and I'll fix it." Hearing this, my heart tightened. Honestly, I didn't understand why I was avoiding him. I clearly liked him a lot. To be honest, I've never had a relationship. I haven't even spoken much with boys. In middle school, I preferred to hang out with sweet, soft girls. In high school, I chose to study humanities. At that naive age, I longed for contact with the opposite sex to increase understanding, but there were only a few boys in my class, and the pressure of studies reduced our interactions. In college, I started participating in club activities, meeting many friends, but I still just treated them as friends. With Rocky, I always felt a bit strange. Seeing me silent, Rocky looked dejected. "I get it, you don't like me." I panicked and instinctively explained, "I don't dislike you." Rocky's eyes brightened, his tone brimming with suppressed joy. "Then you like me." I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I slightly nodded. After eating, he clung to me, not letting me leave. In a pitiful tone, he asked, "Can you stay and watch a few episodes of Peppa Pig with me?" I shook my head and suggested, "I don't want to watch Peppa Pig tonight. Let's watch something else." Rocky's eyes lit up again, as if desire was swirling in them. His Adam's apple bobbed. "Okay, Haley, what do you want to watch?" I covered his eyes and snatched the remote away, coldly saying, "Let's watch Crayon Shin-chan." Rocky didn't seem as disappointed as I expected. Instead, he sat on the couch, murmuring, "It's been so long since I watched Crayon Shin-chan." Later, I moved across the hall to cohabitate with Rocky. It wasn't the traditional way of cohabitation. We belonged to a new style of sharing. For instance, today he would sleep in my room, and tomorrow I would sleep in his. Our shameless days didn't last long. In the blink of an eye, it was year-end. After the company holiday, we returned home, each to their families. However, the days at home were definitely not carefree. The day after I got back, my mom's knocking echoed at 7 a.m. "Haley, get up for breakfast. You can't skip breakfast just because you slept in. It's bad for your stomach. And remember, we have to do a big cleaning today. Have you forgotten?" I responded half-heartedly, not intending to get up. It was only 7. This was even more annoying than my usual work hours. Seeing that I didn't move, my mom's knocking grew more urgent. "Do you remember the Mary family? They lived next door and moved away 10 years ago. They came back this year and already came over to wish us a happy new year. And here you are, still sleeping. That's not right." My awareness gradually sharpened. Recalling that Peter's mother was Mary, I casually asked, "Is Peter back too?" My mom paused for a second and asked, "Are you still thinking about him?" "Not at all. That was so many years ago. At this point, I couldn't sleep anymore, so I just got up. After a quick wash, I went to the living room for breakfast. I had just taken a bite of my fried egg when my mom handed me a task. She took out a basket of fruits and placed it on the table. Later, take these over to Mary's house and wish them a happy new year, okay? She insisted I not tire myself out but also not sit idle. I shook my head in resistance. Mom, I'm socially anxious. I don't want to go. My mom looked puzzled and asked, what does socially anxious mean? Stop making up excuses. My dad, who had been silent, suddenly chimed in with a laugh. It means she's a social phobic. People like Haley are best suited to interact with neighbors. Finish your meal and hurry up. I felt a bit helpless, but had to take on the burden. Swallowing the last bite of my fried egg, I picked up the fruit basket, forced a smile, and knocked on the door across the hall. Little did I expect, the one who opened the door was Rockey. Here's the translation with the specified formatting. I stared at him with a face full of questions. Why are you here? Rockey raised an eyebrow, speaking flatly. This is my home. If I'm not here, where else would I be? I was even more confused, my mind a mess. Then I threw out a critical question. What about Peter? Rocky's face darkened in an instant. With a hint of gritted teeth, he said, after all these years, you still only think of him. After saying that, Rockey suddenly whipped around, and the door was slammed shut with a bang. There seemed to be some dust in the air, making it hard to breathe. I stood there, still a bit dazed. I just came to deliver some fruit. As I was pondering this, the door swung open again. Rockey still wore a dark expression. My brother went abroad to pursue love, so you can give up on that. After saying this, the door was shut again. My mind finally started to work at high speed. Peter has a younger brother, but because their parents divorced, the brother only comes to stay during summer and winter breaks. Moreover, he was quiet and didn't like to talk. I wasn't too familiar with him either. As time passed, my impressions of him gradually faded, but he didn't seem surprised to see me now. The thought was chilling. Was Rockey secretly in love with me all these years? Forget it. I looked down at the fruit I was still holding. That was the priority. I placed the fruit basket by the door, then sent Rockey a Facebook message. My mom asked me to deliver this fruit basket. It's at your door. Remember to take it. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Half an hour passed, and Rockey still hadn't replied. I couldn't help but feel worried. These fruits were sweet and fragrant. I hoped nobody would steal them, so I sent another message. Me, ? Rockey, ? Me, take the fruit. Rockey, got it. Oh, since that was the case, I felt relieved. I began to tidy up my bedroom. I checked my phone again, and an hour had already passed. Beep, beep, beep. Suddenly, a bunch of Facebook messages popped up. Rockey, is that all? Rockey, is that all we have left to say? Rockey, what exactly have we been to each other these days? Rockey, am I just unlucky? Rockey, what exactly makes me less than my brother? Rockey, if you can be with him, why can't we? Seeing this, I quickly initiated a video call. He answered instantly, but hung up just as fast. I took a breath and tried again. Rockey, what kind of one-man show are you putting on? I didn't check my phone for just an hour, and you've created all this drama in your head? It's not like I. Before I could finish, I met his eyes, which were slightly red. A wave of bitterness surged within me. It was my fault. What wrong had Rockey done? He just loved me too much. Unable to hold back, I slightly changed the comment I had made to him on Facebook. Then, I shifted back to a softer tone and spoke gently. Don't overthink it, okay? My relationship with your brother is just that of friends. And friends we haven't been in touch with for many years. Rockey let out a small "oh," but his eyes still held a lingering grievance. How should a man be comforted? That really put us strong women in a tough spot. Just as I was racking my brains, my mom knocked on the door again. In a panic, I hurriedly hung up the Facebook call. Rockey seemed even angrier. Rockey, the crying man, am I really that shameful? Me, be good. The Empress has urgent matters to attend to. I'll come back to indulge you later. As I stepped out of my room, the Emperor and Empress were already seated on the sofa. Looking stern, I felt that something big was about to happen. I mentally reviewed everything that had happened in the past few weeks, but I couldn't find anything I had done wrong, so I sat down calmly. The Empress, with a serious expression, was the first to speak. Haley, I want to ask you something. I tilted my head, waiting for her to continue. The Empress wore a face full of struggle, sighing. You're in your 20s now. Why haven't you been in a relationship? Are you still not over that Peter boy? Huh? I was even more puzzled. I looked at them, confused. Why do you all think I like Peter? The silent emperor chimed in. 10 years ago, when the family next door moved away, you cried for several days. You even lost your appetite, not even touching your favorite chips. I held my forehead in a bitter smile, feeling helpless. I cried because I lost my playmate. It hurt. You know, that's just how our tear-prone bodies are. And about not wanting to snack. It was because I realized I had gained weight and didn't dare to eat recklessly anymore. Why is your imagination so rich? In response to my doubts, the emperor pressed on. Then you tell us, why haven't you been in a relationship all these years? I shrugged, utterly speechless. Because there hasn't been anyone suitable. Good men with 2 legs are harder to find than a 3-legged toad. As soon as I finished speaking, the Empress seemed to have a headache, rubbing her temples. Are you saying you like girls? I was dumbfounded. I was about to deny it, but the Empress didn't give me a chance to speak. Forget it, as long as you like, girls are okay, too. Bring her home to meet us. Suddenly, I had an idea. I winked at the Emperor and Empress. Mom and Dad, actually. I've liked Peter's brother for a long time, but he has always ignored me. Do you have any ideas? Now it was their turn to look at each other in shock. After about a minute, the Emperor was the first to speak. Haley, are you serious? I nodded. So, half an hour later, our family appeared in the living room of the Mary family. My parents were catching up with Mary. I was standing by, quietly teasing Rocky. Leaning close to his ear, I whispered, Beloved, have you missed me? Rocky turned his head away in frustration. It seemed he was still angry. I had no choice but to pull out the big guns. While the adults were deep in conversation, unaware of us, I stood on my tiptoes and kissed Rocky's cheek. Though it was a fleeting peck, he turned crimson from his neck to his ears. I tugged at his shirt sleeve. Don't be angry, okay? At this, Rocky gave a barely perceptible nod. I let out a sigh of relief, only to find several gazes fixed on me. The surrounding environment suddenly fell silent, and the atmosphere turned awkward. The Empress was the first to speak. Kids have grown up. They should keep in touch when they can. Mary immediately chimed in. Yes, we are getting old. It's better for them young folks to hang out. I stiffly nodded. Then everyone was waiting for Rocky's reaction. He didn't say anything, but turned to look at me. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I raised my hand to touch my face, asking, Is there something on my face? Rocky shook his head. Then he spoke. I just bought a glow-in-the-dark watch. Do you want to see it? Huh? Before I could respond, Rocky pulled me into the bedroom. As soon as he closed the door, he pushed me against the wall. I panicked and reminded him. My parents are still outside. But Rocky seemed to ignore me and continued his actions, until he took out the glow-in-the-dark watch. Look, it glows blue, isn't it pretty? So childish. I didn't want to engage with him. Rocky shoved the glow-in-the-dark watch into my palm. This is the one you gave to my brother. Do you remember? I shook my head. After all these years, I really didn't remember. Rocky chuckled self-deprecatingly. I liked it, so he took it off and gave it to me right away. In his heart, you're really not important, you know? I nodded and said, It's okay, I gave it to him anyway. It was just a random gift. That was the truth. Rocky thought I was being sarcastic, feeling a bit downcast. But I didn't want to keep being awkward with him. I took the initiative to wrap my arms around his neck, pulling him closer. When our noses touched, I leaned in for a kiss, soft and lingering. Rocky quickly turned the tables, his distinct hands cradling my face. In an instant, he conquered me. I slightly opened my eyes, just catching a glimpse of his rolling Adam's apple. It was a kind of intoxicating sensuality. This kiss lingered unusually long, letting us both sink into it, until a blinding light shone into the dim room. The door opened. I hurriedly pushed Rocky away, locking eyes with several gazes. It was painfully awkward. Rocky broke the silence first. Mom, why didn't you knock when you came in? Mary looked a bit embarrassed. Sorry, I thought you locked the door. I didn't expect it to open with a gentle push. The most obvious was my mom. She hurriedly covered her mouth, then exclaimed, Is this progress a bit too fast? Before I could respond, she added, Well, it's better than never being in a relationship, and being single for a lifetime. I was so embarrassed that I quickly interrupted. Mom, let's go home first. After saying that, I took my mom's arm. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the Emperor, who was frowning silently the whole time. Once we returned home, before the Emperor could blow up, I took the initiative to explain everything about Rocky and me, but I didn't mention that part. Knowing that we were in a normal relationship, the Emperor's expression softened considerably. Only then did I feel at ease. Heading back to my bedroom to rest. Once I lay on the bed, I suddenly felt very tired, probably because I had woken up early that day. I felt a bit sleepy. Before I knew it, I drifted off into a deep sleep. My parents didn't check on me either. When I opened my eyes again, it was already evening. The room was very quiet, and the surroundings were dimly lit just right. The orange-yellow light spilled into the room, looking warm, but inside, I felt an overwhelming sense of loss. Suddenly, I heard some unusual noises from the balcony outside. I rubbed my eyes and looked out, only to see Rocky. I was a bit surprised. "What are you doing here?" Rocky dusted off his hands and said, "Our balconies are so close. Isn't it easy for me to come over?" I felt dizzy. How could he use such a dangerous method, even though we were only on the second floor? This was too risky, so I began to scold him. "Don't do this again, okay? It's too dangerous. You could use the front door. No one is stopping you." Before I could finish, Rocky's head came close to mine. "Baby, I still haven't kissed you enough today." His eyes sparkled, almost enchanting. Who knows who can resist such a little temptress? Anyway, us strong women certainly couldn't, so I leaned forward too, until we could feel each other's breath. Seeing me like this, Rocky cradled my face. This kiss was very gentle, kissing my forehead, eyes, and nose again and again. Because we were so close, we felt each other's warmth and heartbeat. As the kiss ended, I leaned against Rocky's embrace. He played with my hair and gently spoke. "Baby, before I came, I heard my mom discussing our matter with Auntie. They even talked about engagement parties. My mom really is something." I didn't respond, continuing to lean lazily against him, listening as Rocky continued. "So would you be willing to marry me?" Was this a proposal? Since I hadn't thought it through, I fell silent, seeing my hesitation. Rocky, unusually calm, seemed quite composed. After a long while, the sky outside had turned from orange-yellow to dark. Only then did Rocky softly speak. "It's okay, I can wait. I'll wait for the day you say yes." The start of my relationship with Rocky was chaotic. Life afterwards, though simple, was filled with happiness. In the end, I couldn't bear to make him wait too long. The following year, spring arrived. I accepted his proposal. The elders from both families were even happier than us, busily organizing the engagement party. But I'm the kind of person who is a bit lazy. I've never liked dealing with these tedious matters, so I was just going through the motions. Rocky probably sensed my impatience, so he whispered in my ear, "Your brother Peter will also be back for our engagement party." I rolled my eyes, deliberately teasing him. "Really? That's great. I'm looking forward to it." Seeing that I didn't take the bait, Rocky lost interest and didn't say anything more until the evening. I was a bit hungry and aimlessly scrolling through an app. I asked absent-mindedly, "Rocky, what are we having for dinner tonight?" Rocky replied, "We'll eat Peter." This guy really holds grudges. He brought it up first, yet he's the one getting angry now. Truly, only men and petty people are hard to handle. Time flew by quickly. Soon it was the day of our engagement party. I held Rocky's hand, toasting to the guests. Yet I didn't see Peter for a long time, until Rocky passionately delivered his engagement speech while I looked around. Finally, I spotted Peter, who had rushed back from abroad. After over 10 years apart, I recognized him from just a couple of photos I had seen on social media. As the years went by, he had become more composed. Beside him sat a quietly beautiful girl. Her long black hair cascaded like a waterfall, her eyes and brows like blooming peaches. She radiated an air of tranquility and grace. No wonder Peter was smitten and went overseas to pursue her. I would also be captivated in his position. For a moment, I was entranced, forgetting everything around me, until Rocky coldly interrupted. "Have you looked enough?" I shook my head. There are too few girls like her. I needed to look a little longer. Suddenly, Rocky raised his hand and pulled me. His voice was slightly hoarse. "Haley, you don't want to run away with him, do you? He already has someone he likes." Only then did I realize Rocky thought I was looking at Peter. I sighed and held his hand tighter. I was looking at the girl next to Peter. "Please don't overthink it, okay? She's really beautiful." If I were in his position, I would also recklessly pursue love abroad. Rocky was taken aback and then replied, "That girl is my brother's first love." I see. My curiosity about the gossip was burning fiercely, but there were too many people around, so I kept telling myself to stay calm. Until the engagement party ended, I started pulling on Rockey, eager to gossip, but he was unwilling to share, looking rather aggrieved. "Baby, today is our engagement party. Could you focus a little more on me?" "All right." I indeed wasn't being considerate too. Is human. What's important is to correct it. I quickly hugged my fiancé affectionately, softening my voice to coax him. "Don't be angry, okay? The night is still long. Let's chat slowly, alright?" Seeing me like this, Rockey finally broke into a smile. His strong arms wrapped around me, providing a warm, stable happiness. End of main text. Extra, from Rockey's perspective. Many people are curious. When did I start liking Haley? Some believe it was a fleeting glance in college. Others think it was the slow-building feelings of neighbors. But in reality, my affection for her originated long ago. At that time, we were both very young. I would only see her during the winter and summer vacations. Due to my parents' divorce, I lived with my father, while my brother stayed with my mother. I rarely returned to stay with my mother, only during the winter and summer vacations. Could I spend a few days there? Because of my calm nature, unlike other boys my age, who were lively and sunny, I had few playmates. But in my heart, Haley counted as one. Although she seldom talked to me, we had more interaction, while watching the Crayon Shinchan every day. My brother didn't like watching cartoons, so it would just be me and her each time. In the sweltering summer heat of the living room, the electric fan turned lazily. We ate ice pops that had been frozen in the fridge, watching those joyful little characters on the old TV. It was simple but happy. At that time, she was always captivated by the cartoon plots. Her two black eyes, round and wide, were glued to the screen, and I always secretly watched her. Her laughter, her anger, her tears. Sometimes, she would notice my gaze, but she probably thought I wanted to eat the QQ candies in her hand, so she would turn around, stuffing a handful into my palm before turning back. We had very few conversations, but in this way, I was already content. In those blurry childhood moments, my feelings for her were indeed fond. It was the kind of affection between friends. When did this kind of affection deepen? Probably when we both entered middle school. Our families would occasionally tease my brother and Haley, saying they were childhood sweethearts, a match made in heaven. My brother would always wear a stern face, telling the adults not to talk nonsense. But Haley seemed completely unconcerned, not paying attention to them at all, letting the adults say whatever they wanted. However, the way she treated my brother was indeed unique. A feeling of sourness often surged in my heart. I didn't understand this feeling, but I defined it as jealousy. Yes, I was jealous of my brother, jealous of how he could be by our mother's side since childhood, jealous of his excellent grades and how the elders favored him, jealous of the love he received from Haley, jealous of everything he had, until one sleepless night of deep conversation. Peter asked me, "Dad, does he still remember me?" Only then did I realize. Although I could come to my mother's place every summer vacation, our father had never actively wanted to see Peter. So, like children from divorced families, we always felt a void inside. We often escaped reality, thinking that wrapping ourselves up would allow us to forget all the pain. That night, I decided not to be jealous of Peter anymore. But sadly, life is unpredictable. Due to changes in my mother's job, she and Peter had to move away. This meant that, while I would still have many winter breaks, I would no longer see that person who made my heart ache. So, under the pretense of helping my mother and brother move, I returned once more, but I found her crying. She was crying for Peter's imminent departure. I froze mid-step. My hand, which was about to offer comfort, suddenly stopped and was withdrawn. That feeling of sourness became even more intense at that moment. I couldn't say a word. I didn't even bid her farewell. It wasn't until much later that I realized this sour feeling was love. It was the innocent, youthful love of adolescence. Years flew by. I was now in college. I got into the school I liked and studied the major I was passionate about. As for Haley, I had become quite vague about her, but memories of her always lingered in my heart, unshakable and persistent. Time is a good remedy. It can dilute pain and scatter memories. Just when I was about to forget her, she unexpectedly re-entered my life. It was during the summer of my freshman year. I traveled alone to Hawaii. On the vast, serene, and beautiful shores of the Atlantic, she appeared, but she didn't recognize me. With a tone of polite unfamiliarity, she asked, "Hello, can you take a picture of us?" I smiled and agreed, taking many photos for them, hoping she would recognize me, but unfortunately, she didn't. Until the end, when she thanked me gratefully. She still didn't recognize me, so I returned home from Hawaii with disappointment. I accidentally learned that Haley was studying at the same university as I was. The campus isn't too big or too small. In a year's time, we had never run into each other. Yet, we happened to meet in vast Hawaii, by the romantic Atlantic. Is this considered fate? Some words are hard to say. Some things are difficult to predict. Since the start of my sophomore year, I often encountered her on campus. I remember once, in a convenience store, I took the initiative to greet her, but she tilted her head and remained silent for a long time, probably not remembering who I was. In the end, to avoid awkwardness, she nodded at me to show friendliness, so I lost the courage to approach her again, but I was also unwilling to give up just like that. In the next 2 or 3 years, we would bump into each other, pass by, and not say a word. Until graduation, my good friends started to tease me. It's 2024, and you're still stuck in pure love. I didn't quite understand, so I asked, is that a bad thing? He looked at me, exasperated, and remained silent. Fine, let's go all out this time. Since pure love wasn't working, I began to seduce her. As Haley's neighbor, I took advantage of the proximity and eventually succeeded. Then, adhering to the supreme truth that, to capture a woman's heart, one must first capture her stomach, I began to prepare a variety of delicious dishes every day. I successfully won over her stomach, and thus captured her heart. Many years later, Haley asked me, "When did you start liking me?" I replied, "Probably that summer." The sun was bright and dolly, the clouds floated low, and from time to time, a breeze blew by, bringing a hint of coolness. It brushed against the corners of her smiling eyes, and I stood behind her, watching the scenery of my heart, distant, tranquil, feeling the joy of that moment. Years have passed. Many details have been forgotten, but I only remember. It seemed like a late-arriving wind, blowing her hair, lightly sweeping my palm. It lingered, a delayed ripple. The end. If you like Puppy's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.